Alright guys, so this is the actual drive. We're going to cut a few corners in this 74 Bronco. So just to give you a little background, this is the first gen Bronco. This is actually a 74. Ford introduced this vehicle in 1966, and at the time it was intended to go up against the International Harvester Scout and the Jeep CJ5. And you can tell by the looks and the dimensions and the design of this vehicle, that's pretty much the market it intended to occupy. And at the time you could get it pretty much just as you could those other vehicles. It didn't come with much. I mean, steering wheel, seats, drive stick. I think in other options down the road as they continue to produce the vehicle, you could get automatic, you could add the shell, you could add winches, tow hitches, which they weren't great for towing in the early days because they only came with a 6-cylinder inline engine. But later in the last stages of this particular generation, they did introduce the 289 cubic inch so that they could rival the Blazer that was introduced in '69 from Chevrolet. So you could upgrade to a bigger engine down the road, but still it just kind of got outdone. It got outsized, and everything eventually moved to bigger offerings on the off-road spectrum. The Generation 2 Bronco came out in '78. That was a very popular vehicle. Those who are big fans of the first gen Bronco know what it was intended for. They appreciate it. It's generated a bit of a cult following. And for those who are in the collector market, these things nowadays are fetching in excess of $60,000 for a really top-notch one. It's a good investment if you've got one. If you're looking to buy one right now, you're probably going to pay top dollar for it because they're a bit difficult to find in good condition. So it's definitely something that if you're going to undertake, you got to be ready for what that will include. Great vehicles, lots of fun. This particular one, as I mentioned, belongs to my brother-in-law, and he has gone to great lengths to make it really, really nice. I mean, if you hear this engine running, I could sit here all day and just let the engine run, to be honest. I just love the way this thing burbles. He upgraded the engine, obviously. It's got a 351 in it. I don't think you can do much better than that, quite honestly, and I don't think you really want much more than that. I mean, you got all the torque, all the power you need, on-road, off-road, whatever duty might call. Seats are pretty much upgraded. He's got some buckets in here. These are a little bit more competition spec. I think his intentions are to bring it back to a little bit more of an original state of grace. Obviously the engine with the fuel injection, the drivetrain and tranny, which is a 5-speed, will stay intact because I think that just makes it a more drivable, more livable vehicle. But for the most part, this thing is just a joy to behold, and having an opportunity to drive it for the last couple of days, I've just been over the moon with it. I'll give it back reluctantly, but for the time that I have it, I want to give you guys a glimpse of what one of these is like. And we're off. Very mechanical. It's got power steering. No stereo at the moment, or non-working one. Thank goodness it has power steering. This thing would be a beast. If you're driving this thing on the road, which I've done a few times, obviously, it's something to get used to. The steering tends to kind of wallow over the road, so you don't want to go too fast in it. I mean, I'm sure that could be remedied with some other upgrades, but as it stands right now, this is not a long haul journey choice. If you just want to get some growl in your life, you should get this one. This was actually for sale. Possibly. You got to come correct with it, obviously. Like I said, this has been a labor of love, and he's got some real nice upgrades on it. That steering I was talking about is just kind of meanders across the road. I mean, you can keep it steady, but you got to develop some confidence and put some seat time in to make sure you're comfortable with it. absolutely great. For the weather we have here in Southern California, I couldn't think of a better way to take a drive up the coast. Maybe find some B-road. Just go on a little expedition. This torque is crazy. I'm actually very reluctant to put my foot in it. Just because I mentioned with the steering and the amount of torque this thing has, I mean, I'm afraid the thing might pop a wheelie and just end up on a curb. Heaven forbid. That's just intoxicating. It's a little taller. It's lifted slightly, but it's not gaudy. It sits really nice. Nice high and upright riding position. You can see everything. Obviously, because there's not very much impairment of your vision. There's no top on it, just a cage. So I got a great 360-degree view. Just a great vantage point. I haven't driven anything like this in so long. I grew up driving some of everything, obviously, but I had a couple of Mustangs. And the moment this thing fired up, it was the first thing I thought of. I mean, and this is as visceral as it gets. Everything that happens is a result of you making that happen. So forget about any aids. As you might guess, it's not very fuel efficient. Every time I change gears, I think that needle's literally just moving to the next notch, downward. It's a lot of fun. Actually makes me want some type of a Jeep vehicle right now. The brakes on this have been upgraded. Running disc in the front, drums at the back. It's pretty good at stopping. You just have to be mindful of what's going on, how much distance you need to get to the stopping point. The more urgent your stop is, the more adjustments you got to make to keep it from locking up. There's no anti-lock braking, obviously. Really got to modulate that accurately. You want to slow down in situations where you know this thing doesn't shine, like anything other than a straight line, until you get it off-road. If you want to take it off-road, have at it. It's definitely good for that. No worries whatsoever. Just go for it. I gotta tell you, I feel like the man driving this. I'm loving this engine. I'm absolutely loving this thing. Just to highlight a little bit, some of the things that are actually upgraded to this truck, Jeep, if you will. Obviously the 351 Ford Windsor engine. It's actually got a Ford F-150 power steering pump. The fuel tank's been upgraded to 23 gallon. Obviously, if a vehicle like this is going to drink a lot of fuel, you want to have a capacity to accommodate that. 30-inch tires, not too big, but suitable enough if you need to go off-roading. The paint on this is called Metallic Midnight Blue. It's really beautiful. It looks amazing in the sun, and at night it looks really dark. Sparkling metallic flakes just makes it stand out. It's actually got Bilstein shocks on it. A Deaver suspension matched up to that. Syntec wiring harness. The Phytec fuel injection system. And that's made it to an Edelbrock performance intake. And all that equals a really refined Gen 1 Ford Bronco. Fantastic vehicle, I must say. Glad I had the opportunity to drive it. As I mentioned, this one's possibly for sale, so if you're in the market and you're interested in one, hit me up. awdreviews with a Z at gmail.com. You can also go to the website allwedrive.com and reach out to me that way. And there's always the comment section. Thank you guys again for watching. Till next time, peace. I love that engine.